le socialism.
Viva Dinosa, viva. Qina msebenzi, qina. Thank you very much, Program Director. Program Chairperson, Comrade Mavis Mlaudzi. Dinosa President, Comrade Simon Hlungwani. Members of the National Executive Committee and the entire leadership collective. Delegates to the Congress, distinguished guests, I pass my salutations to the leadership of the Alliance, the SACP, which I'm informed that was represented here by the General Secretary, Comrade Solima Paila, the President of the Federation, Kosatu, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, and the President of the Republic and the President of the ANC, Comrade Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. Comrades, the ANC greatly appreciates the invitation to deliver a message of support to this 9th National Congress of Dinosa. This union will celebrate 29 years of representing scores of professional health workers in South Africa in December this year. The role you continue to play as frontline healthcare workers, saving life and limb under very trying circumstances must be appreciated. This Congress also takes place against the backdrop of sharpening contradictions, both internationally and locally, characterized by dramatic shifts in the political landscape. On the domestic front, the electoral outcomes of 2024 national and provincial elections plunged the movement into uncharted waters, characterized by our National Executive Committee as a strategic setback for the national democratic revolution. Despite this, as the party with the largest votes, the ANC seized both the tactical and strategic initiative and started shaping a narrative about the need for political parties to work together and voluntarily cooperate in setting up an inclusive, viable, and stable government of national unity in order to sustain the momentum to address people's needs and advance the national transformation agenda. Because we have never met since that time, and we are meeting with you since that time in your Congress, it is important to put things into perspective and to understand that voluntary participation meant that everybody was invited to this particular process, and others by choice decided not to participate. But we need to understand that the government of national unity in itself is not a melting pot. It's a conglomeration and a bringing together of people who never worked together, who don't agree even on ideological basis. And that is why the reflection on the tumultuous situation of this government of national unity will from time to time reflect that. There is no better demonstration of our ability to forge ahead with our manifesto commitments, despite the changed political landscape, than the promulgation of critical transformation laws in the form of the National Health Insurance Act, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, and the Expropriation Act. So the ASIJIKI spirit will find expression in that government of national unity, and also will be demonstrable through the implementation of the transformation agenda in that particular government. The ASIJIKI no sellout agenda will continue, despite the fact that we did not register overwhelming victory, which meant to us a setback because we are no longer in a position where we can determine the way forward overwhelmingly like we used to do. But we use our largest number to advance the agenda of transformation. The geopolitical landscape is experiencing tectonic shifts with the rise of ultra-right governments with fascist characteristics, hell-bent in asserting racist tendencies of yesteryear. These are the authors of neocolonialism and modern-day imperialism, steeped in entrenching racial inequality and disdain for human solidarity, steeped in warmongering and ethnic cleansing. These developments, comrades, are fueled by a new wave of disinformation that has replaced diplomacy and intelligence, underpinned by unbridged greed and the pursuit of commercial interests at all costs. We unequivocally pledged our solidarity with the people of Palestine and took the unprecedented step to hold the apartheid Israeli regime before the International Court of Justice, to be held accountable for its actions in Gaza and against the people of Palestine at large. History has no blank pages. The world will not forget that the United States has used its veto power in the United Nations Security Council 48 times over the decades to block any attempt to hold Israel accountable for its illegal actions and violations of international law. And yet, everyone else around us and in the world must be held accountable. If you look at Ukraine and Russia's situation, what happened to President Putin? He is declared not persona non grata. He is facing charges with regard to what is called human rights violations. But others are exonerated from that. That is the hypocrisy we are talking about. And we are advocating for a rules-based system where all of us shall be equal. And our deep bonds of solidarity with those that remain oppressed were forged in the furnaces of our shared struggles, from Palestine to Western Sahara. Despite pressures exerted on us by those who seek to impose their will on our sovereign state, we dare not falter in our duty to advance a better Africa and a better world, where peaceful coexistence of nations, respecting each other's sovereignty in a multipolar and rules-based world order, which is underpinned by adherence by all nations to multilateralism as opposed to unilateralism. What we see is not even unilateralism, is one state imposing itself on other states as the world policeman. We have a great expectation that the Congress will contribute to the important discussions on the task of advancing the national democratic revolution, as well as the primary task of the Union to unite workers, first within the Federation as well as workers in general. A few weeks ago, we celebrated 70 years since the founding of the South African Congress of Trade Unions, SACTU, the forerunner to our federation, COSATU. SACTU saw the beginning of our historic Congress alliance between the National Liberation Movement, the vanguard party of the working class, and the organized formation of workers, today represented by the ANC, SSCP, and COSATU. This is victory, not just of worker struggles, but also of our struggles for freedom and our history of the National Democratic Revolution. Worker struggles in South Africa have always and continue to be struggles against exploitation and struggles for a society in which majority of South Africans have ownership in the economy, in which our people have work opportunities, employment, relations that do not undermine human dignity. The 2024 movement we characterized as a strategic setback for the NDR has brought to the fore stark contradictions, both within the alliance and society in general. Like any living organism, our alliance is dynamic, constituted by 4 independent allies. Even though we share common perspectives on the NDR which unite us, we will always have differences on tactics. However, we are all committed to the unity and cohesion of the alliance. We are engaged in deliberations aimed at strengthening the alliance, which include discussions on the reconfiguration of the alliance and to seek the most optimal way to ensure effectiveness of the alliance on the political programs of the movement. Comrades, SACP is a political vanguard of the working class. The ANC, Ukalele Pain, is a national liberation movement which leads the project of the National Democratic Revolution. COSATU is a federation of the organized workers. Not all workers in COSATU will belong to the Congress movement. Hence, COSATU becomes a contested terrain. I'm talking in ideological terms. The hegemony of Congress within COSATU will be contested. But all SACP members are members of the ANC, and the majority of workers support and are members of the African National Congress. What binds us together is the program of the National Democratic Revolution. What is the National Democratic Revolution? The National Democratic Revolution is primarily about the resolution of the national question, the recognition that when we seek to transform this society from the undesirable state to the desirable state, the undesirable state was characterized first by not class, but among others class, gender, but race. And in terms of that, we say then that the revolution is primarily about the resolution of the national question to a desirable state which is characterized as a free, non-racial, democratic, prosperous, and democratic South Africa. And the transformation we are at, of course, this society also is characterized by divisions in terms of class and class stratification. There's the bourgeoisie, there's capitalist, capital, and then there's bourgeoisie. But the ANC ngukalele pai, and then there is a distinct program ideologically led by the SACP of socialism and the working class, a political vanguard of the working class, which you belong to and some belong to and some of us belong to in the context of the national liberation. We have kept this together over the years with these unique features, but with a proper understanding that we've got to respect each other. Now, the time has arrived, which the Communist Party says, we are the political vanguard, and at the same time, we have accepted to participate in a democratic election process through the ANC. But we have arrived at a point where we think we can stand on our own. Now, the fundamental question that must be answered by revolutionaries in South Africa, to what extent will that have an impact on our alliance and its implications? If it were to evolve, will it strengthen our alliance? Will it weaken it? Without debating about the necessity to reconfigure. Because a reconfiguration in itself will mean many things. But one thing for sure it means is that there must be acceptance of strengthening, working together in various aspects of the evolution of this alliance. We've got 30 years now that we've been in power. And then we've coexisted with these unique features. Now, we are debating that. And if we reach an agreement on reconfiguration, like comrades say there has been an agreement, how do we then see that reconfiguration unfolding in the context of a possibility of the party as a political formation standing on its own? These are hard questions that must be answered, not emotionally. We had very good discussions with the party. We are going to a discussion this coming weekend as the ANC, and the party have accepted that the mandate the ANC has got from its Congress to discuss reconfiguration and deferring it to the National Executive Committee is what they too accept. But ANC can't be arrogant to the party and say no contest. You know, some people who are very emotional, they say, "Mabazimele ke qesi zawabona." Akukho lula, kuyanyukela paphandle. Kuyanyukela. Abantu abangenzi door to door, uyawubava besithi bayekeni. Lo muntu akafiki na ku door to door. Uthi bayekeni kunzima kuyanyukela paphandle. Le vote ayikho lula. So kufuneka sicengane. Funeka sicengane sibonisane and sibone ukuthi sizawuqhubeka kanjani uya phambili. So comrades, that is what we understand about what needs to happen going forward. So comrades, we have seen fringe racist organizations such as the AfriForum and Solidarity getting emboldened in making calls tantamount to reversing the gains of our freedom, yearning for the return of minority rule, thus the return of apartheid. Metaphorically, we could say, comrades, with regards apartheid, we scorched the snake and had not killed it. While such calls may appear to find receptive audiences elsewhere in the world, we have no doubt that these efforts will fail as they are predicated on lies and disinformation. Our struggle, comrades, to realize a democratic society free of the bondages of our past is facing the most potent threat since the advent of democracy. The dire state of our municipalities, conditions in public facilities that leave a lot to be desired, and aging infrastructure fuel the crisis of poor service delivery, high unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Our message of renewal means very little to our people if these do not translate to tangible improvements in people's lives. This starts with the commitment to raise the bar in improving frontline services to our people in public healthcare facilities. However, this must be supported by improved conditions of service that enable you as frontline workers to put your best foot forward as patriots. This includes ensuring safe working conditions for healthcare workers who often fall victim to crime in the line of duty. If we cannot protect our healthcare workers who are dedicated to saving our lives, it will suggest we have no appreciation of our own lives. It is time we all put our shoulders behind the wheel and give a practical expression to a better life for every citizen by making a firm commitment to champion the implementation of NHI so we can realize its goals. We are hopeful, comrades, that this Congress will be incisive in firming up DENOSA's contribution to national policy, implementation of programs that will bolster the ability of the state to deliver better services to our people. Nurses are amongst the first black professionals who have and continue to play a critical role in our communities and in our struggle. And often when this is said, we don't listen to each other. There will be no life without a nurse in this country. And that must be understood. And comrades, it's not patronizing. That is the reality. There will be no life without a nurse in this country. And that must be understood. Ndiyayiqonda into yemali mhlekazi yilwe. Uyilwe into yemali. That is why une union. Le union funeka ikuncede ulwe xa kunobathana. In the past, there were unfortunate statements that were made, both in the Congress movement, even some of our ministers. Abasebenzi qabalwayo belela imivuzo. Akufunekanga unyukelwe inyongo. Xa uyiminister, unyukelwe iswekile. Funeka uhlale ujonge. Ndandinguminister we-transport. Bafika abasebenzi pha. Andazi ingavele eTV lento. Bathi bazawundisika ngerazor. Ndaye ndime pha ndifake ijacket ndiqinisa inhloko ndijonge phambili. Bebephuma ngapha ePrasa ngabasebenzi bekhosathu but bedibene nezinye union. Befuna imivuzo, inyuso. Akufunekanga ke ikoloro yami ibile ndinguminister ingathi imali yami leya. Kufuneka ndiyekele lento abasebenzi bayilwalayo iqhube ngehlobo efuneka iqhube ngalo. So ngoba ezi union aziformishelanga ilekese, ziformishelwe ulwela amalungu abasebenzi. Yilonto sayilwelayo ku LRA, yilonto sizayilwa kuqhawe kunobathana kule GNU asijiki. Izawuhlala imithetho ekhusela abasebenzi ikhuselekile kweli lizwe. Uba ke kukho abantu abafuna uye-America bayoxelela uDonald Trump indaba yabo leyo. Mabahambe, asiyo state sika Donald Trump thina. We are an independent sovereign state in our country. And that is what must be understood. So comrades, siyabaxhasa thina siyi-ANC abasebenzi. Nee-minister zethu eziphetheyo sithi mazinganyukelwa iswekile abasebenzi xa balwela amalungelo wabo. So babelwela into right. So nditsho ke comrade xa ndikuphendula ndithi qhuba. Ngoba le union azange yayenzelwa ipavi into emnandi nje a nice to have. Yanzelwa ukuthi ikhusela abasebenzi in the workplace. That's why you've got Dinosa and you've got COSATU. Comrades, we are hopeful that this Congress will contribute in the national discourse. As we conclude, we have high expectations that delegates will tackle the critical issues on the agenda of this Congress with rigor, underpinned by the highest level of consciousness and commitment to outcomes that will make differences in the lives of ordinary South Africans. The Congress must ask difficult questions, make accurate analysis of the current challenges, and pass resolutions that cement accessible health care as a cornerstone of the South Africa we want. We wish you well, comrades, in your deliberations, and we look forward to the outcomes that will advance our efforts to advance the cause of the National Democratic Society envisaged in the ANC Strategy and Tactics document. Thank you very much. Amandla!